He's putting little pieces in, and that's what we're doing. You start at the beginning, you do the basics right, and everything else comes together. And that's what we've done.
One of the hypotheses would be that it's the parents that have done it, and it goes without saying. That's I looked at, and I'm sure Kate and Jai understand that. We had any evidence that Kate and Jai were involved, that we'd hand it over to the authorities.
And did you find anything?
No. Nothing. Not a shred of evidence that they were involved.
When I had the interview for the job, I made it quite clear that I would only take the job if it was an independent investigation, and if there's evidence against anybody, no matter who it is, that we give that evidence to the police.
Do you work with different theories about what happened? Can you say what you think happened?
Well, the abduction theory is the main one that we're focusing on. If a stranger kills a child, or anyone for that matter, they almost always dump the body within a very close proximity of the crime scene. Now, this particular area around Madeleine has been systematically searched. The search was started on the night and continued for weeks and weeks, and no body's been found. So that gives me hope.
But what about if it was dumped in the sea? I mean, that's what most...
That's always possible, of course, but again, the sea quite often, gives up the bodies, but no bodies have been found. So I think that abduction is the most likely motive, most likely done by an individual on their own, most likely an individual who has close links with Madeleine. And which is why we've focused all our efforts really on or most of our efforts certainly on Madeleine.
Out of the hundreds of witnesses who came forward, only a handful are from the local Portuguese community. These are the people the investigators want to hear from, so they plan to return to Praia da Luz and reconstruct key events surrounding Madeleine's disappearance, hoping to provoke a response.
Yay, that's it. Can you look down at your feet?
Look down at your feet. Seems hard to believe, but it's actually busier now than it was a year ago.
Has the balance changed because you're not working in paid work? And you've worked for most of your adult life.
Women do all the cooking and washing anyway, don't they?
So that hasn't changed?
I don't think so. It's funny because, going back a few years, if I hadn't been in paid work, I'd have probably felt a bit guilty. But now, what I'm doing is the most important job that I'll ever have to do. And I think my work is incredibly valuable.
When the Portuguese police shelved the case last summer, they released 30,000 case files. Kate has spent the last 6 months going through every document.
The vast bulk of it was in Portuguese, so we then had to get it all translated, which probably cost us about £100,000. I don't believe anybody's got the motivation that I have, and I was desperate to go through this myself because I knew that I'd be going through it with a fine-tooth comb. And I have spent months and months and months and months going through it, evenings, weekends. And you want to go through it really, really quickly because I want to get all the information I can and know what I can do to help find her as quickly as possible. So obviously I just worked really hard just to get through it. Often, police do say the names in the files, it was always there. But you just need other bits of information really to come in to basically highlight the name. But at the moment there isn't a big arrow and an asterisk by the name.
The most likely sighting of Madeleine and her abductor was by Jane Tanner, a friend of the McCanns. In the files, Kate believes another witness statement from an Irish family describes a very similar sighting to Jane's, less than a mile from the McCann's apartment.
The reason why this is significant is both sightings were given independently. So when this family gave their statement, they weren't aware of Jane's description, and there's actually quite a lot of similarities. And it does beg the question, I mean, how many people carry the children on a cold night not covered, you know, nothing on their arms or their feet, no blanket. Now either there's been two people carrying children in that way who haven't come forward to eliminate themselves, or potentially they're related.
But you think that child is Madeleine?
I think there's a good chance it could be Madeleine. Certainly the description there sounds to me like Madeleine.
Kate and the Find Madeleine campaign coordinator travelled to the search team's offices. They want to discuss the details of the upcoming reconstructions and 3 potentially key witness statements that all tell of a man hanging around the McCann's apartment in the days leading up to May the 3rd, 2007.
The most important ones, apart from the obvious of Jane, is sighting number 3, the man in the Alouette at the back of the apartment. Number 3 is definitely a very important sighting because it links them.
The investigators have examined the statements from the 3 different witnesses and are now convinced that prior to Madeleine's abduction, the McCanns were being watched. The team hope this new information will give them the breakthrough they need.
You'd think it's got to be the same person, wouldn't you, really?
And all 3 say that he was watching the apartment.
Yeah. We're here to discuss the pending reconstruction that we want done.
So basically it looks like that we've got 5 sightings really, 2 a man with a child and 3 just a suspicious individual.
Yeah.
And the 3 with the suspicious individual kind of tie in together.
They all tie in together. There's,
similar time, similar place.
yeah, there's 3 in exactly the same location. I don't know what the Portuguese authorities have done to actually eliminate these people from the inquiry. So we've got to presume that they haven't done it and go with that. So it's just important that we're accurate in what we know and make sure that that's what we'll go with. No speculation. It's got to be the facts that we know and not try to fill in the gaps that we don't know.
I mean, I'd like to go back, but not for this, to be honest. It's kind of just below the surface. And I just, you know, I'd be scared, I think, you know, to sort of open it up again, really, so, yeah. I think it's actually going through the scenario of that night as well, you know. I mean, you know, even what I can remember of the night, you know, seeing Jerry, that distraught really, and sobbing and on the floor. I mean, I suppose I'm concerned that will surface again.
Kate calls key witness Jane Tanner, who has agreed to join Jerry and the investigators in Praia da Luz for the reconstructions.
Oh, okay, pretty busy. Although it's quite good, to be honest, to be doing stuff and focused, and it just sort of helps, you know, to be doing something positive, so. How are you feeling about the weekend? I mean, I'm really nervous and I'm not going. Thank you very much, by the way. No, I know it's a big step, but we appreciate it anyway, so thank you. She's trying not to think about it, I think. I think she just said, apart from the obvious emotional concern, she's worried about the reaction of people locally.
Returning will be controversial. Praia da Luz was a popular family holiday resort. But things haven't been the same since Madeleine's abduction.